watch out, because I'm all riled up tonight. Dear scientists who failed to reject the globe Earth model, science is supposed to be about discovering our world, our reality, finding truth, not clinging to dogmatic models that are wrong, that have been demonstrated to be wrong, that fail to predict our reality, fail to predict new findings, new observations, fail to accurately describe what we see and experience in our world. If your model is that flawed, then you need to reject it and start working on a better model. Sometimes science works by tweaking and adjusting a model to bring it closer in line with external reality. But sometimes you have to concede that your model is just wrong, and you need to start over. And you need to start over. You need to start over. And you need to start over. You need to throw out your wrong model and start over, because the underlying assumptions that you've built into your model in order to accommodate findings that just really didn't fit have created such a warped, ridiculous, inflexible thing. It's not even a model anymore. It's just this monstrosity that you keep shoving at the public and saying, this is how things are. This is clearly not how things are. This is clearly not a working model. And continuing to make it more and more absurd in order to fit new findings into it is a waste of money and time. And intelligence, it's a waste of intelligence. We have bright people working for years on random nonsense rather than applying these people's intelligence to real problems of our real world, to solving problems, to discovering more about the world that we actually live in, rather than on trying to make this non-working model work. Which it won't, because it's a wrong model. You know that what you're doing is no longer science. You know that it's just this dogmatic, religious ritual of absurdity that lends you a sense of prestige, that maybe ensures you a high salary. But you know on some level, at some depth, that this is a false religion, and that what you're doing is no longer real science. It might be science, but it's science as applied to an imaginary world that bears some semblance to our world, but isn't actually a real model of our world. This scientism, this religion that encourages dogmatic thinking, destroys your flexibility of thought, destroys your critical thinking skills, destroys your innovative thinking. It just destroys everything that you have to offer. It destroys everything that your intelligence had the potential to provide to society and even to your own sense of well-being, because you're taking your intellect and you're wasting it. You may as well just be sitting at home playing video games all day, because that's kind of what you're doing. You're testing theories about an imaginary world and figuring out if they apply to that imaginary world that isn't ours. One of the things that globe model rejectors have a problem with is the southern stars. So in the globe model, there's an explanation for why in the northern hemisphere the stars rotate clockwise, and in the southern hemisphere the stars rotate counterclockwise. But in the flat earth theory, that hasn't been sufficiently explained. And so what scientists will do, scientists being members of the scientism religion, as opposed to actual scientists who are tasked with discovering more about our real world. But what scientists will do is they'll say, well, if you can't explain the fact that the stars go counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere on your flat earth map, then clearly the earth is a globe. That is a false dichotomy. That is not just stupid, but offensively stupid. Are you seriously telling me you have a PhD and that's how you understand the problem, the situation, that either the world is a globe or the flat earth theory has to have an explanation for why the stars go counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere? That's ridiculous. So you're going to cling to a wrong model because the only alternative model that has been proposed hasn't been perfected yet. That's ridiculous. You cannot say the only people that will have access to the resources required to find out about our world are the people who embrace the globe model. But we're not going to let go of the globe model unless you give us a perfected alternative model. In order to create a perfected alternative model, we need the tools and the resources to solve these problems, to answer these questions. But you're not giving us access to those tools and resources because we reject the globe model. Do you not see that there's a problem there? Are you seriously going to tell me that you have a PhD, but you don't see that there's a problem there? If that's the case, I think it's time that we demand that you return your PhD to the institution that awarded it to you and have it annulled. Because otherwise, you're just denigrating the value of a PhD. You're destroying the value of the label doctor, scientist in our society. You're just a big black mark on everything that we as a civil society, as a technological society, hold dear. Shame on you. You are not worthy of having a PhD. You're not worthy of calling yourself a scientist because what you're doing is destroying the actual science. You're destroying what science stands for. You're destroying the respect that intelligence ought to merit. Where is your flexibility of thought? Where are your critical thinking skills? Where is your innovative thinking? If you're a scientist and you're trying to find out more about our world, where is that curiosity? If you're telling me that you're intelligent enough to have a PhD in science, to call yourself a scientist, but when you're faced with the question of stars going counterclockwise in the southern hemisphere, as it applies to a non-globe model, the only thing you can think of is it doesn't work on a flat earth model. Therefore, the earth is a globe. That's fucking insane. A. Simulated sky. Explanation. Plausible explanation. B. Projected sky. Explanation. Plausible explanation. C. Electromagnetic effect of plasma tubes interacting with the plasma dome shield that NASA itself admits to having discovered, and at the points of intersection between the plasma shield, plasma dome, and electromagnetic plasma tubes, at those points of intersection, star. Explanation. Plausible explanation. If you think of the flat earth as a ring magnet, and the dome is moving, spinning above it, then the outer portion of the ring magnet has a different polarity than the inner portion. So the inner portion, the North Pole, and the outer portion, the South Pole. And so you would actually expect, if the dome is rotating, that the electrons would be going in towards the positive end, let's say in the center, and out from the negative end, let's say the outer ring. And so since the direction of movement is different, it's not ridiculous to suspect that they would move in a different way, such that they would appear to me spinning clockwise closer to the center and counterclockwise closer to the outer ring. explanation, plausible explanation. There are other alternative explanations, and if you actually are intelligent, you should be able to generate these for yourself. You shouldn't have to wait on some flat earther who doesn't have the science PhD that you have to give you the alternative explanation. You should be generating it for yourself if you're actually curious about our world. The onus is not on me to prove to you that there are alternative models. The onus is on you to either come up with a functional model, which you have failed to do. And so you need to now acknowledge your error and start working on developing a better model. Good night.